This is an examination of the hidden human condition.
This is the Hidden Killers Podcast
with Tony Bruschi.
You know, it's really kind of amazing what people will believe if you just tell them in a confident tone. Even better if the person you're talking about happens to be like your spouse or your children. Okay, I'll take your word for it because that's how we're wired. And in decent, healthy, normal human beings, that's not such a bad thing. But when you're talking about someone who likes to habitually lie, make up stories, or alter the truth for their own gain, it can get pretty messy pretty quick. Talking about Chad Daybell and his wife, Tammy Daybell. Tammy, of course, died under very suspect circumstances. Now, it's being looked into and being charged as a murder in the case against Lori Vallow Daybell and Chad Daybell. But why would Chad want to murder his wife? Well, number one, he hooked up with Lori Vallow Daybell, and she, was pretty much all in on his insanity beliefs of world ending and them being king and queen of Rexburg and the 144,000. So it all, his bullshit stories finally paid off, and someone was buying him. Maybe not so much his wife, though. Oh, and by the way, she had a lot of money in life insurance policies. Policies to Primerica and LifeMap. But how do you make it look like she died under normal circumstances? Well, you start telling people, oh, she's having seizures. She's been having health problems, but she's not talking about it to anybody. Why is that, Chad? Oh, it's hard to talk about. That's what he was telling everybody, though. The reality, though, is Tammy was very active. She even had a Fitbit that she wore all the time, and that Fitbit showed a lot of activity. A lot of activity. She was in clogging. I know clogging's not necessarily a common thing, but she was in clogging. Zumba, did a 5K race right before she died. Wasn't exactly had a history of fainting, dizziness, or seizures, or not feeling well, as Chad was trying to paint that picture and telling investigators when they ruled it natural causes for her death. And then there was the autopsy. Well, the second autopsy, when they had to exhume the body and take a closer look at everything as to what was actually going on. And when they did that, they found evidence that was consistent with someone being restrained. Yes. Ruling out intoxicants and seizures as a cause of death. There was an exhaustive test that was performed to try and figure out exactly what happened to Tammy Daybell. There was a pink frothy substance on her mouth when they found her dead. But they didn't test it. Chad just said, we've been through enough. Let's just let her rest in peace. So they did. They took his word. Okay, yeah, you've been going through a lot of stuff. Okay, buddy, let's get her out of here. And, never mind the autopsy that later showed that she was restrained. Oh, and by the way, the chief medical examiner later figured out she died by asphyxiation. So she was restrained and asphyxiated. It seems to be a reoccurring theme that we're starting to see here, a pattern of behavior, if you will, with Chad and Lori Daybell, considering that's how we now know that JJ died as well. We'll probably never know what exactly happened to Tylee, as she was literally melted into a bucket. So, little hard to tell what was going on there. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, though. They kind of go with what works, don't they? In cross-examination, as the defense claws for something or sees what will stick. They brought up Tammy's use of fluoxetine, which is the generic for Prozac, which a lot of people take. Asked if it could cause seizures. Defense attorney John Thomas questioned Dr. Christensen about this, and Dr. Christensen maintained that he did not believe Tammy had a seizure, although he couldn't be 100% sure. What about the money? How much money was there to be gained other than the emotional release of getting rid of your wife so you can go be with the fabulous Lori Vallow? Well, let's talk about that for just a second. Tammy had 2 life insurance policies. One was for $300,000. It was paid to Chad Daybell when Tammy died. On the Life Map policy, Tammy was insured and Chad was a beneficiary. The amount there was $80,000 and it was paid out. Mattingly also clarified that there was an additional $50,000 in the Life Map policy, so the total payout was $130,000, not just the $80,000. So at the end of the day, if you do math, $430,000, almost $500,000 is what Chad Daybell gained by allegedly asphyxiating his wife. So there's that. And really a whole lot of trust that was put into these people without asking more questions or looking into things a little bit deeper. And I'm not blaming authorities for necessarily not doing that. I think when we put the pieces together, it is somewhat understandable how this looked fairly legit to a certain extent, and then how dysfunctional jurisdictions can be from county to county, state to state, to arrest people who have children missing for 5 months. I have a little less grace on that one. But your wife dies. It appears to be natural causes. It's amazing how one can get away with that just on their own merit.
This is an examination of the hidden human condition.
This is the Hidden Killers Podcast.
The Hidden Killers Podcast.
With Tony Bruschi.
A lot of missteps here in this case. But in the end, it's all coming to bite him in the ass. If you want to weigh in on this case, you can do so. 8885-KILLER is our phone number, 888-554-5537, to weigh in on anything that we are following for you right here. I'm Tony Bruschi. Stay with us.